Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast. I'm Kimberly Dondo, Digital Content Manager. And in this week's Weekend Essay podcast, we have reporter Jean-Baptiste Andrieux giving his personal account on expats and their money. Take it away, JB.
When I wrote the first piece of Money Marketing's target market series on how to advise sport professionals, an advisor I spoke to pointed out how complex advising foreign professionals could be. The advisor in question, Turner Smith & Williamson partner, financial planning, Adam Osper, said they need much more help and understanding because they're coming to a new country. The tax system is different, what you do with your money is different, how you buy a property is different, where you invest money is different, the currency is different, and there can be a language barrier as well. It's potentially problematic if someone's here for a very short period of time, because you need to do that extended planning piece of work with them. Although I'm regrettably very far from earning as much as a footballer, some of the remarks below apply to my personal situation, in fact to expats in general, regardless of the level of income. In fact, some of Osper's comments resonated with things I've encountered during those 10 years abroad. I fell at times into some traps that could have been easily avoided if I had been better informed. To give you an example, Austria has a tax called Kirchenbeitrag, or church tax. Anyone familiar with the German-speaking countries will have heard of it, because both Germany and Switzerland have an equivalent. The trick is that you do not need to pay, provided you do not tick any box in the origin section of your registration formula, a form you have to fill in when you settle in the country or move from a district to another. I will let you guess what I did. I did not know anyone when arriving in Austria. I was unaware of certain specificities. I learned more and more about them by basically hitting the wall. But with this simple mistake, I trapped myself with a tax I could have avoided. Jurists might say, nemo sensitur ignorare legem. Nobody is thought to be ignorant of the law. The problem with that, when you arrive in a new country, especially if you don't know anyone there, the odds are high you will be ignorant of the law. So far the UK has been easier. It is less bureaucratic than France and Austria are. Also, I guess I had enough time to make all kinds of mistakes in Austria and learn from them before coming here. A thing that remains confusing to me is the use of another currency. I have never entirely adapted to the euro. I still need to convert large amounts into francs, which have not been in use since 2002, to appreciate whether it's a lot or not. I'm fully aware it does not make much sense to convert sums in a currency that has not been in use for 20 years. Now the pound sterling has been added into the equation. When living abroad, one interesting thing to do is to observe how people live and behave. That also includes how they deal with money. In that regard, Austria and Greece could not be more different. COVID might have changed this. I did not have the chance to go back since the pandemic broke out. But Austrians predominantly still use cash or bank cards. Credit cards are not even accepted everywhere. I remember having a bank card with an overdraft allowed. Imagine my surprise when I arrived in the UK and got a Visa card from my bank. Of course, I had savings from my previous jobs, but I was surprised that a financial institution would entrust someone with, even temporarily, no source of income with a credit card. In general, the Austrians I've met were thrifty and live purposefully below the mean. At least, much more than the French and the Brits do. As for sport professionals, expats might stay in a country for a limited period of time. They may have a temporary contract, decide to venture to pass a new, or go back home at some point. I believe for a lot of expats there is always a feeling of uncertainty. That's what I think, at least. As a result of this uncertainty, I try to plan different scenarios for my financial future. One would see me staying in the UK for the long term, another one would see me go back home, and another one move to a third country. Life is full of surprises. When I completed my undergraduate study, moving to the UK did not even vaguely cross my mind. I had no interest in journalism either. I wished to work in diplomacy. 4 years later, here I am, covering the UK financial sector as a reporter. If an average idiot like me feels it is hard to manage his money between two countries, I can perfectly imagine how complex it must be for an advisor to work with a high net worth individual across several jurisdictions. That is probably something I will look into later this year in a target market piece. However, money is not the only difficulty when living abroad. I am fully aware of the chance I've had to experience life in 3 different countries from 2012 until today. Austria and the UK both taught me in their own ways things I would have never learned if I had stayed my whole life in my comfort zone in France. Yet, as everything in life, this privilege has a price. Leaving a country also means leaving family, friends, and habits behind and rebuilding everything from the ground. AXA Global Healthcare found in 2019 that recovering their support network would be the biggest motive to move back home for a quarter of expats. In addition, almost 9 in 10 expats have felt isolated during their time abroad. It is probably the main difficulty as an expat. To be honest, I've always found it hard to rebuild a new support network abroad, both in Austria and the UK. This is partly due to cultural differences and to a lesser extent language barrier. You may speak a language well, but we always face certain limits. I think speaking in a foreign language is somehow like playing away for a football team. At least I've always lived in Western countries. I can imagine how hard it can be for people living in countries with a radically different culture. But it would be too easy to blame everything on cultural differences and language barrier. Most of the time, the main culprit responsible for our problems can be seen in a mirror. A lot also comes from my character. I'm aware of the fact that I'm taciturn and introverted. They are probably not the best traits to rebuild a social life abroad or navigate society in general. AXA's research also found that a quarter of expats had a negative view on living abroad. I do not know where I stand on this point. I'm grateful for every opportunity I found abroad, but the past 10 years have not been easy at times.
Thanks, JB, for another amazing Weekend Essay podcast. We hope that you really enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.